Hey guys, and welcome back to the AetherHub and another Magic the Gathering video. Today we'll be exploring a new world we're set to visit in an upcoming MTG expansion. This plane has a deep history with the game's lore, being teased and even involved in some of the most major storylines we've seen. And while this will be the first official time for us exploring this world, it's actually the second time we're visiting it. Let's learn everything available right now about Kaldheim and the potential villainous planeswalker we could face there again. Quick aside before getting into the video, I wanted to tell all you Vorthos fans out there that I have redesigned the channel's Patreon, updating tiers, adding new perks, and benefits. So if you like the content here on the AetherHub and want to support that content, while getting some nice rewards as a bonus, consider checking out and supporting us on Patreon. A link can be found in the description below. And as always, make sure you take that notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. Set for release in early 2021, Kaldheim will be our first official in-game visit to this plane of mountains and ice. I say that because technically players have already had the opportunity to see Kaldheim in a less traditional manner. Kaldheim was involved in the less than stellar Xbox game Duels of the Planeswalkers 2014, or at least I personally played it on Xbox. So if you don't recall visiting Kaldheim the first time around, well, I don't blame you, and I also don't recommend going back and playing that game for the experience. It just isn't worth it. While Kaldheim was indeed featured in Duels of the Planeswalkers, it wasn't the only world we visited. The whole story of that game revolved around Chandra Nalaar's search for the being who manipulated her into stealing the Dragon Scroll. And this is where we see Kaldheim's influence on the main storyline of MTG. As we learned in previous videos, the Dragon Scroll was a well-guarded spell which could cast Ghostfire, an invisible flame that was one of the requirements for unlocking the Eldrazi prison on Zendikar. When the locking mechanism was designed by Ugin the Spirit Dragon, the release required the presence of 3 separate Planeswalker sparks and this Ghost Flame that Ugin believed only he could produce. However, a scheme was hatched to set the monstrous Eldrazi Titans free, and it all started with Chandra Nalaar and this Dragon Scroll. Chandra was manipulated by another Planeswalker into stealing the scroll, which kicked off a series of events laid out by the dragon and would-be god of the multiverse, Nicol Bolas. Chandra stole the scroll that could conjure Ghostfire, which set Jace Beleren on a mission to track her down and steal it back. All Bolas had to do was put his own minion, in this case Sarkhan Vol, to keep watch over the Eldrazi prison and wait for all of them to bump into each other. This, of course, started a fight and the inevitable use of the Ghostfire by Chandra. And, like clockwork, that's exactly what happened. But what does this scroll, or the Eldrazi, have to do with Kaldheim? Well, in short, nothing. Kaldheim in Duels of the Planeswalkers is just the final stage, the meeting grounds where Chandra confronts the mysterious Planeswalker she chases throughout that game. The one who originally manipulated her into stealing the Dragon Scroll, leading to the partial release of the Eldrazi, a shadowy figure and pawn of Bolas named Ramaz. Chandra confronts Ramaz on a snowy peak on the plane of Kaldheim, beating this maddened shaman into submission but not learning much more from his ramblings. All she was able to secure was that Ramaz was working under the influence of a powerful draconic voice, one that plagued him and haunted him relentlessly, until his mind eventually broke and he became his willing thrall. We know this now to be Nicol Bolas, and Ramaz was just another pawn who helped set the Eldrazi free as part of the dragon's larger plan to achieve godhood. But what, if anything, do we know about this Ramaz character, and could he make a return in our next visit to Kaldheim? Sadly, this is just another one of those characters who, for the most part, have been delegated to the dustbin of MTG history. Little information on Ramaz was provided through the campaign of Duels of the Planeswalkers, and many mysteries still remain today. We know that Kaldheim may not be his home plane, given that Kaldheim will have a strong Viking and Norse mythology aesthetic, and Ramaz's appearance just doesn't really match with that. We know that he's a practicing shaman, much like Sarkhan Vol was on his home plane of Tarkir, except much more magically inclined, with spells rather than the physically and spiritually devoted Sarkhan Vol. We also know Ramaz has an affinity for dragons, again similarly to Sarkhan Vol, which allowed both to be easily manipulated by the powerful Nicol Bolas. This is also why we find him on Kaldheim at the end of the game. Kaldheim may be home to numerous dragons, which Ramaz felt comforting. So quick prediction, I expect a heavy dragon creature type presence in Kaldheim. So this begs the question, in Kaldheim and whatever story we have there, will we see Ramaz return properly in Magic the Gathering? I believe it's possible, which is weird to say knowing that Bolas has been defeated after the War of the Spark and Ramaz was only influential as a tool of Bolas. I think the real pull of Ramaz is his relationship, or in this case, feud with Chandra Nalaar. We know Chandra after the War of the Spark is out there doing her own thing, exploring worlds, trying to help where she can and just find who she is as a true heroine. What if she decided to return to the place where it kind of all began with the Eldrazi? The peak of the formation of the Gatewatch and the fight with Bolas, where it all started. The plane that housed the Planeswalker who pushed her to steal that damned scroll. Think of it. This is where she faced the start of all of this madness, but thanks to that madness, the Gatewatch was formed, and she met Nissa Ravain, forming, then breaking a very tough relationship with the elf. This could drive her back to Kaldheim, and maybe, just maybe, a mad shaman would still be lurking in the mountaintops. Maybe Ramaz will still have one last secret of the dragon left to spill. My idea would be that Ramaz and Chandra do in fact butt heads again on Kaldheim, but this time with a slightly different revelation. Ramaz's mind has been cleared of the dragon's influence, but in that clarity, Ramaz has learned the true fate of Bolas. A fate at this time only known to Jace and Ugin. Ramaz knows, because of his mental link with Bolas, that his former master is still very much alive. Weakened and imprisoned, but yes, still alive. A revelation to Chandra, who believed the god dragon to be dead, defeated by the Gatewatch on Ravnica during the War of the Spark. Who knows what Chandra would do with this information, certainly feeling betrayed and lied to by Jace and the others, but beyond that, I can certainly say it would push the story into a very interesting direction. Now, a lot of this was speculation, bits and pieces of the plane's history, yes, but overall, we just don't know a whole lot, and I can only make some educated guesses. What we know about Kaldheim itself, outside of me probably mispronouncing its name throughout this entire video, is that it'll be a top-down Norse mythology-inspired world. Think Amonkhet, but with Odin and Thor. I'm not sure how deep they'll go into that idea, like if we'll see a pantheon of gods similar to those on Amonkhet, or if they'll just have a bunch of big bearded Vikings and barbarians running about. Either way, it's the type of world many in the MTG community have been asking for, really for years now. So go ahead and grab your longboat and your pet ravens, because we're headed to Kaldheim. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you're excited to brave the frigid mountains of Kaldheim, make sure you leave this video a like, tick that notification bell, and of course subscribe so you never miss out on our next raid here on the AetherHub. Let me know your own thoughts and anticipations for Kaldheim by leaving a comment below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, really appreciate it, and until next time, see ya!